piano roll, if you all know what I mean. Things that happen, and it happens so quickly that we go through that time period much more at an accelerated rate. And so therefore, the time that we needed to spend with it was cut short, but it still amounted to the same length of time.
Had the same value.
Same value. In fact, it's stronger, and it can be more effective in our mind. But anyway, last evening, or the past few days, we have both kept very silent and kept it from each other what we were getting from the next level, and like we should go to Amarillo and then wait for further instructions, so to speak. And we had, if you all listened to the tape that
he's saying that Lynx felt like Lynx needed to go to Amarillo,
right,
and leave the retreat. In fact, Lynx is bringing things down from the retreat. So as far as we know, we're going to be here for a little while, and we're assuming it's to try to wrap up getting rid of the house and preparations for the next step, whatever that is. Go ahead. Excuse me. Did I send your message?
No, I was trying to think where I left off. Where did I leave off?
Well, you said we were coming to Amarillo, and I didn't want them to think that we meant everybody.
Right, no, the retreat crew was still continuing. Well, it was really important, wasn't it? Why don't you talk a minute? Maybe I can.
How far do you want to go? How much do you want us to say? How much secret can I lay out?
Well, I don't know that we have that much right now. Well, can any of you, shall we play that tape back? What were we saying? Right.
And that's when I jumped in to say that we meant Lynx.
And that was really important, wasn't it? Why don't you talk a minute, let me think.
Okay. The retreat has been painted, carpeted, draped, busted hot water heater fixed.
There was one thing I said.
You can't talk now.
There's one thing I said. Remember, if you all listened to the tape very carefully, remember that? Okay, remember what we talked about? Huh? Thieving?
No, she's talking about this last tape that came down from retreat. Didn't the tape just come down from retreat? Where we had a lot of trouble talking. It's hard to hear the tape, so it's a double challenge, isn't it?
But we talked about how the next level gives us things to do and we don't question it, no matter how much work it involves or how much it costs or something like that. That our task is to see that the lessons that you all need to learn are learned. Remember that? We may not have said it in those exact words, but it's close enough. Okay, now, T and Do learned at the very, very beginning of our awakening that we never question the next level. We do as we're told. We're very obedient servants. And we hope we have taught you all to be obedient servants. And you are seeing an example of how obedient we are. Because we liked that little retreat up there very well. You all know that how much we liked it. And yet we were told last evening to come down here to Amarillo. And we didn't waste a moment or lose a bit of sleep. However, we did get up awfully early this morning. But what I mean is we didn't question the next level. The only thing we questioned was whether or not it was right. And we always go through all of that.
Do you understand that? That doesn't mean we're questioning the instruction. We're questioning whether or not it's an instruction that we have received.
Right.
And so we have to examine it from all directions to be sure that what we have gotten is an instruction.
so anyway, we were both of us. We were finishing touches of getting the craft fixed up back at retreat, getting the curtains up.
As a matter of fact, yesterday was when they finished the busted hot water heater, which was the last thing on our list of things that had to be.
And so we just felt like, but for a few days we've been getting the instruction to come here, and we know we're not going to stay here very long, but we know we got instructions to come here. But neither one of us told each other because we thought it might be influences, and it wasn't until we were almost hit in the head last evening that we really shared it with each other, and then it was like, oh, why have we delayed? Because anytime we are slow to receive something because of our reluctance, can you understand that? Because we were so involved in getting the craft fixed up, and we thought it was such a loverly place, and we liked it so much that we wouldn't consider leaving so soon after getting there. And so we just kept pushing the thoughts out of our mind until the next level said, okay, you've got it all done. Now, get out of here, which was really exciting for us now because
Exciting because we were able to determine that it was an instruction. And what we had been getting separately, we were questioning whether or not it was an instruction or if it was some vehicular thing or some reason that we felt like we ought to go down there and try to sell the house, and then we thought, no, that's not it. And so we couldn't determine until we discussed it, which is like the next level said, well, now that you've fixed the hot water heater and done all those little details you wanted to get done, then sit down and discuss it and get on with what's next. And it was then that it was clarified that it was an instruction that we were getting, that Lynx was to move out and come down here. And why we're here, we're not altogether sure. And how long we'll be here, we're not altogether sure. But at least we know that we have followed the instruction to leave the retreat and come here and to meet with you tonight.
We want you to understand how the next level works. Like on that recording, that tape we made, this last one, we tried to explain, and we felt like afterward that we didn't really explain it well enough, and because we had an awful lot of trouble talking and expressing our thoughts. In fact, the next day I asked if we ought to just stop the tape going.
She said, I don't think we ought to send that tape because it won't make heads nor tails.
Because we felt like our thoughts were very clear. And once you all get to retreat,
we thought they were.
At least we thought. No, our thoughts, I'm not saying our words.
No, I'm saying our thoughts, but we thought our thoughts were
right.
clear. At least we thought they were.
That place is so strange because your brains, the altitude is so high that your brains do not work.
They don't get enough oxygen to keep your machinery going.
And you really have to think, really push through to make your minds work. I don't know if R30 or who was up there last. Did you all notice that? Your brains had trouble? You didn't have trouble? Maybe. You stayed downstairs a lot. You didn't go upstairs. See, it's higher up there. We were holding the meeting upstairs the other night. The altitude was a little bit higher in there.
Now, that same thing happens a lot of times in meetings at any altitude where the combined number of people in a given space eat up the oxygen that's in the air and make it more and more difficult to form a good function of the brain so that you can express yourself clearly. Do you all know that you're eating up the oxygen in this space right here? And the more you eat up, the poorer our brains work and the poorer your brains work. And the next thing you know, your brains try to tell your vehicle that you're sleepy because it's slowing down its function.
Now, there's one thing that we want you to think about and kind of rejoice in, because we members of the next level like activity, and we've had an awful lot of activity. Maybe all of you haven't participated in it, but we certainly have. You know, when you're moving things, you're participating. And any time we have activity, something is happening. We may not be aware of what it is, but something is happening. And so therefore,
forward motion is occurring. Anytime there's a move, anytime there are tasks to be done, you know, like even if it's painting or carpeting or whatever, but as long as something is happening, forward motion is happening. And you want to be sure, even when there's nothing happening physical, that forward motion happens by your desire to move forward. And as your desire strengthens because you feel like you're at a dead place, even as that desire strengthens, you are moving forward. Now you get the reward of it after a period of time, and you can see physical things changing and motion happening again. Ever since we've been at that retreat, T and I have felt like we've been stuck, and we thought, why are we here? It's just that we felt like so strongly to come here and to be at this place, and we felt like you were pushing us here, and we had to get here, and now we're here. Why are we here? And yet, that's not the way it works. That's the human brain asking those questions. Because at the next level says, what you need to do is to go up to such and such altitude and paint and scrub and move and do all this, and I'll tell you when it's done. And when you finish that, then do something else. But your human logic comes in and says, now wait a minute, we just got all this finished. So now we want to enjoy it. We want to stick around a while and enjoy it. And yet they shoved us out the door the moment that the task was completed.
We did have one hot blast today. Water heater's been broke for a week almost before they pushed us out. But the most important thing that you've got to remember is that no matter what the next level, when you all have a task like we have to do, which hopefully you will have in the years to come, you've got to know that what the next level has you do does not always make sense. And you've got to trust that what they're telling you to do is what you're supposed to be doing. You don't know that in other words, what you are doing may be causing something else to happen in this garden. And unless you would do it, it wouldn't happen, because you are being used in many, many ways as a tool to help the next level accomplish what they need to accomplish.
What's that little old cliche about yours is to not to... Yes.
What is
yes.
it? They won't hear them.
Yours is not to what? Yours is not to question why. Yours is to do or die. Well, that's the next level. And a good clue is when you can't a good clue that what you're getting when you're in a task like we have, a good clue is when you're getting, whether or not it's an instruction or not, is if you can't make any sense out of it. And yet the instruction is clear, but you can't understand why. But the instruction is clear. Then you have to just act and do it and know that you may or may not understand the reason why later. But the task is to do it, because you're in the same boat, except we are used as teachers to give you those instructions. In other words, you should not question instructions that we give you any more than we question instructions that are given to us. Yours is simply to do them. Now, the faster you do them and learn them and get them down pat, then the quicker you are eliminating lessons that need to be accomplished that lead to one thing: end of class. And so why do you care whether they make sense? Now, this can be confusing, like we said on that tape, in that we teach you to have a very practical mind, not a careless mind, not a wasteful mind in your activities, whether it's supply runs or tools or energy or anything else that you're spending. We teach you to conserve it and do not waste it. Whether it's words, we say don't speak unless it's pertinent to the task and it's direct speech. And everything in the next level is that way. But then the next level can give you something to do that may add up to be, this doesn't seem practical. And then you're wondering, maybe that's the human evaluation of practical. Because if it is accomplishing what the next level wants to accomplish in the next note of the piano roll, it's practical. Whether in human terms or not, it's practical. You have to eliminate that hurdle. And many times what seems to be, many times an instruction is something to do that seems to be impractical. So you've got to get that balance straight. It does not mean the next level is not practical. It means that you don't see the blueprint. That's all it means. Because if you could see the blueprint, you would see how practical that action was. Because their practicality is gauged upon how quickly can we go through all the notes on the piano roll and get your class over. And have you learned lessons as we go and really get them to stick. That's practicality to them. And as secondary practicality, we teach you all the other things that are normal, not normal, we don't like that word, that are the way members of the next level conduct their energy expenditure as far as practicality. And the expenditure of anything is done without waste and without delay. Like we told these today, they shouldn't have delayed getting those punks over there because they didn't know when things would arrive. They shouldn't think logically, let's see, it's going to take them so many hours to get here, so if we get them over there by such and such, probably be safe. That's not the way to think. If Link says, would you get a couple of bunks over to the main craft because we're headed there, and we said it last night, and Link didn't say, do it during your downtime, then you would do it at first opportunity. After you have had your rest and you have consumed and you're up, you try to even make it top priority because it's a Link's direct instruction. And that's the way it is with anything. And we make any instruction that we receive just as top priority. And we don't delay. We don't delay at all. And we don't care if it's pushing our vehicle. We don't care what it is. It's like we got this instruction late last night, and we got up before 3 this morning in order to finish doing things that we needed to do in order to get off, because we were to come here. Now, we didn't sit down and say, let's see, well, now, there's no rush in getting down there because we don't really know what we're doing. So why don't we just take it easy and leave around 10 o'clock this morning? That's human talk. We got an instruction to go on down there.
Started to come last
and so we thought, well, how quickly can we get down there and be safe as far as the expenditure of energy was concerned? And we were awfully tired physically when we got the instruction late last night. So we did think, well, let's get a few hours rest before we take off.
You've got to remember that the next level always comes first. When you have an instruction to do something for an older member, it always comes first, unless they say to you, you can do such and such first. Now, there's one thing I want to mention before we get too far away, and that is when we were talking a few moments ago about the doing things that and we don't know what we're doing, you know, like we have moved our things, let's see, from Black Hawk to Amarillo, then from Amarillo back to the new retreat, and now we're moving them back here. It's true, we would like to know what's happening.
And we don't like to be over in the craft that
but-
people are running in and out of.
Right,
Show
it isn't the most comfortable, well, the conditions are nice, I don't mean that, but I mean it isn't comfortable not knowing when somebody's going to open the door and show somebody when you're taking a shower or something like that, you know. But, and I also mentioned that sometimes when you are used as a tool when the next level maybe be wanting something to happen in the other part of the world, and so let's use this. Also, one of the things that the next I'm working up to what I'm trying to say, so be patient with me. Let's take that craft, that retreat up there. Sometimes the next level repays people back in certain ways. Remember when we first told you about the house, how we felt like it had been neglected? And it was such a sweet, gentle-looking place. Remember that? And let's say that, and the people who manage that craft, this lady who's a real estate lady, has been very, very helpful to us and pushed real hard to help us to get a telephone. Pushed real hard to get a plumber out there.
When the telephone company said there's no chance of getting one for months.
Right, and she worked like a Trojan. Now, the people who have this little agency in this town aren't really prosperous. They, I don't know how often they sell a house, but they're just, I'm sure they just barely make a living.
They work hard for very meager means.
Right, and let's say that the next level, we're testing them and sent us there to have you all go up there to be faced with some lessons. And the tool that they used was fixing that craft up because it was something that we could do. And in the process, they were repaying these people for their kindness. You see what I'm saying? Because what I'm going to say now, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Because we're going to have to phase out that retreat up there. You know what I mean?
Before I forget about it, we mentioned a moment ago that we're staying in a house we may make appointments for. We told the real estate agent to call this telephone number in this craft, and that whoever answered would take a message and run over to that craft and leave a message for us. Like if he says, if the real estate man calls and says, I've got somebody coming over at 2:30 to see the house, it's your job to get a run over there to warn us that
that they're coming over.
Yes, that they're going to have a showing at 2 o'clock.
If we're not there,
Since
just
we don't
leave
have
a
a
note.
telephone.
Leave a note there for us saying that it's going to be shown. Now, what I'm saying is that we have a month. We're going to keep the place another month.
Maybe.
Yes, maybe.
We have agreed.
We thought we were going to keep it 4 months or plus when we got it, and now it's down to 1 month, and Doja
right.
said maybe.
Yes, well, the instruction that we got today, and this was en route to here.
And we called them and told them.
En route to here. Like an hour or two after we left, we called back because we got an instruction, and we just frustrated the crew up there completely, and we said, you're going to have to call and tell them that this is our 30-day notice. And we're in there with an agreement of a month-to-month 30-day notice and so forth. And we said, and as you tell them, say we may be there 30 days, we may be there less, but since we're leaving so soon, you may show the place. So the poor retreaters who went up today wondered, well, what are these people coming in here looking at this place for? Because they had just arrived.
We called at 9:00 and told them they could show the house, and at 9:45 they had somebody over there.
That's right. We called them.
And then at 12:00
they had some more people over there.
And so we know that it sells, and the people were just oohing and ahhing over it because they thought it looked so pretty. And one person said, I couldn't believe that this place could be fixed up so nice.
Both parties that came, one was a realtor who had sold the house previously and had a prospect for it now, and he couldn't believe it was the same house. Another was a realtor from another office who had shown the place before, and he couldn't believe it was the same house. So they were
I didn't know it could be
all
fixed up so nice.
excited about how nice the house is.
So if we've done our duty there, then that's fine, because in a sense they'll be able to get they had kept marking the house down because they wanted to sell it as is. The house
and
is
the condition was so poor.
And the house is just about perfect now, except for the outside trimming on the windows needs some painting, but who looks at that, But in general, the house looks very, very nice.
Let's review just a second. One is that the next level gave us that task to do, which would offer us the opportunity for accelerated lessons and opportunities to learn certain things we needed to learn. And that task is continuing as long as you're going up there and that crew is there. And the second aspect of that was that we've gotten so much help and cooperation from the people who leased it to us that the next level has used our tasks as a repayment to them, kind of a favor to them, to help them sell this house. Because they've been awfully kind and worked very, very hard, and they work awfully hard for very little.
Well, for a lease, I don't think they make very much. So it was just because they were that type of individuals that they were exerting themselves. In other words, they were not doing it for the money. But they're very pleased, and we hope that you all feel pleased over the reaction that they're having to your work.
We think that we'll have it long enough for you all to at least go up once. We think we will, and it's possible, and it's probable that we'll have it long enough for you all to go through it once if you accelerate your schedule. No.
10 people go at once. We don't really know. We're just with things changing so fast. We are perfectly innocent. When we got that place, we thought we would be there. This is it. And we no sooner said it than my mind, and I think in those said, we think. We're not sure how long we'll be here, but anyway, it's good, whatever is happening. This is how you must look at it.
We feel excited because it means that things are moving faster. Junodi?
Well, we thought that
I think it's just maybe not the time. We feel like it's working up to it.
And we feel like it needs some help because it looks so forlorn.
We may take some of these plants back over and dress it up just a little bit, and we don't know what all we'll do to try to give it a little boost, but we feel encouraged about it. We're not discouraged at all. We feel like the next level has I don't know if I should go this far,
sure.
But look at it this way. What if we had sold that place, this one over on Tekla, 2 weeks ago, and we had gotten the money that we had as a down payment returned by someone's down payment, and we could have misinterpreted that and invested that money on that place, and say a couple of four-wheel drive vehicles or something, because you need it so badly going up and down that hill, particularly after every snowstorm. And it's been very rare since we've been there for them to have as little snow as they have had at that altitude. But in other words, we feel like the next level, in a sense, was intentionally holding this back until we had completed that and seen that that wasn't something to involve ourselves in more permanently. That was one of those, as T started out talking tonight, that was one of those short notes on the piano roll that are just as potent as more sustained ones. But now that we feel like we've gotten past that note, we have every reason to expect, though we may be wrong, that now the house could be sold without our misapplication. Do you understand that?
We hope that's right. Snooty.
When I was at T, when we were having the lessons, we had come up about the X-ray work going to the house that was just being kept. And then in here, I thought about how maybe this could possibly be like a lesson of learning at the next level. We put out enormous effort always for someone else. Does that make sense?
You put out whatever is needed, regardless of how much it takes from you.
Well, it's whatever task is given to you originates from the chief. And where could there be greater pleasure in doing all of your energy for those tasks? And because you're serving the chief when you're doing those tasks. And of course, all the work that he does is for reasons that are so great you wouldn't even lower them to think of trying to evaluate their purpose. You know, that would be ridiculous.
And it's always more than what needs to be put into it. It's just like your out-of-craft task. We always told you to be the best employee, to do more than what is asked of you, but not so much that it drains from you and takes away from you here at your craft. In other words, we want you to be the best employee that they've ever had. And in a sense, this is the same thing. We want to be the best renters in a place, and we want to make it look better than what it was when you moved in, or look better when you leave than it looked when you moved in. And but it doesn't mean that you do it in order to impress somebody. You do it because we want the standards that you live in to be greater than what they were prior to your moving in, if that makes sense.
And they're always shocked because they always expect people who rent or lease to abuse places. They think that if you own the place, you might take care of it. But if you're just renting or leasing it, that the norm is to abuse it.
Even this place is cleaned up better than it was when you moved in. It looks better. It's true we haven't painted it or put new carpet, but you didn't need it. If the walls were all dingy and really bad, were an inky-looking color like that, there was an awful-looking green up there at Retreat. If it was that way, we would have painted over it here, just to make it pleasant for you. And then in the long run, we're upgrading the place. Like Astrologics. Remember how bad Astrologics looked? Yeah, that old black and dark colors, and how pretty it looked when we left it. It looked a lot better. And so this is you never want to think of, gee, I don't want to invest any funds in this place. You know, I want to do a bit of good. What you want to do is try to make it suitable for you, because you will never be subjected to such what's the word? Such unkept quarters. You will always have the standard of living in the next level is very high, much higher than any human on this planet. Even the White House isn't as high as what the next level is, because they're limited to what they know on the human level.
Yes, their values are so
the values
strange.
are entirely different, and the things that they have are what make the White House look like a pauper's pen. It doesn't mean that everything is gold. You can't figure it out. All you know is how to think on the level of the human. You just have to wait and see.
But if the next level liked gold, then anything they wanted in gold would be gold, because they have no value stuck on gold.
There may be something more greater than gold. Right now it's dropping, isn't it? So it's really
it's dropped a lot.
You ready? Right. Well, see, you don't know if this isn't a part of all that. You really don't know, and all you know is that you're doing whatever you're being told to do, and you're happy to do it. We know that you could look at us and say, boy, what are our teachers doing? Have they flipped, or has the high altitude got to them or something, you know? And but we could think that about the next level too. We could say, what's going on up there? You all are putting Los Angeles or California in a turmoil. Why do we have to be subjected to turmoil? But we don't do that. We look at it as though it is what we all need to get us out of here.
I think that the whole world has, ever since your class started, has experienced accelerated tests at their own level. The whole world has experienced accelerated tests. Like nations and governments have been threatened with falling completely, and economies and everything has had an opportunity for the little plants to be examined by the next level as to how their programming would respond to those circumstances of all those tests. And there's probably a microscope right now on all the areas that you're talking about that are receiving tests of how to handle, whether it's a mudslide or a blizzard or this or that. And that's nice that West Germany is remembering how they were treated after they chose to be allies with the West, and the West sent them care packages, and now West Germany is sending all these care packages to Detroit because they hear about people being out of jobs, and that's a real switch, and it's a very nice thing to see that those little plants have developed in a way that they want to return that kindness that isn't expected of them.
Well, the test is how you respond to everything. And so therefore your desire should always be, I want to respond in the right way. I want to have the right reaction to whatever happens. Like, we know that Lagodi is tested very strongly at this time. However, he's passing it. We think. We don't know what he's doing right now, but let's use him as an example simply because he was one to load up the trucks and each time, and if you all know what it is to load up those trucks and to try and put everything in its right place. And this morning at 3 o'clock they got up, or 4 o'clock I guess, to fix us some juice and to get some instructions, and Lagodi thinks in terms of trucks and not in trailers, and we were trying to impress upon him that we wanted him to rent a trailer, but we couldn't get through because he kept thinking we wanted a truck. And so what I'm getting at is he's tested. Well, can't we just go someplace and stay put for a little while? Do we have to do this? But his response has been very good. And I must admit, moving isn't the greatest thing that I like to do. But I'm learning to love it,
I wish you knew what T was saying. Because T's vehicle, if she let it speak, hates to move. And what T doesn't give into is that vehicle, which hates to move. That's why she said she's learning to love it, because she's making it be quiet. Because the task that we're in as your teachers is just, as you know, goodness alive.
Oh, it's so strange. We don't even unpack boxes anymore.
Nobody has the record of moving. That's your class.
We had some boxes up at retreat we'd never unpacked. And now I'm wondering if we're even going to unpack the ones coming down tomorrow. Incidentally, the trailer will be coming down tomorrow, and Lagodi and Dansodi.
Lagodi and
Dansodi. Who's scheduled for the next vacation? Do you all know?
Which in-craft person is
Pressodi?
the next vacation?
Can Pressodi go back with Dansodi?
Well, not unless she can drive.
All right.
Has to be a driver. Has to be a
who's
pilot.
the vacationer after Pressodi?
I mean, you'll still stay on
You
your
don't
regular
drive either,
schedule,
do you?
but we can move one ahead who can pilot.
Who? Well, Alex Odie could go up, couldn't he? In other words, we'll just send because we're going to bring Lagodi back to stay here for a while, and so we need somebody to go back with Dansodi.
We'll figure that out tonight.
Okay, we'll figure it out. Let you know.
But trailer will be coming tomorrow, and Lagodi and Dansodi will be coming, and Lagodi will stay for a while, and whichever craft has an empty bunk. And
the retreaters probably, right?
Huh?
Right,
yes,
but they'll stay in retreaters.
There'll be a double bunk because we'll free up the ones that are over there. Where does that bunk go? To this number 2? So Lagodi will be staying here, and then Dansodi plus someone else will be going back the next day. What is that?
Do we have one?
What, do we have a tall space that could be traded? We do. Who's in the tall space? Alex Goody?
Well, then he can trade.
So you could be swapped and he could take your spot. That'd be good. Yes.
We'll just move
That'll depend upon where the double bunk goes.
We'll have to work that out.
Where's the double bunk due to go? Where did the double bunk come from? From here?
Where's Tolodi resting?
One.
So, what does he do? Just have one? So, Lagodi could go over there?
Yes, Lagodi could go over there, but that will bounce Alex Odi, and the empty bunk will be here. But if we want him there, then we will have to let the empty bunk be assembled over there. Is there space for the empty bunk to be assembled over there? Didn't the bunk leave there since we set up? Okay, so this bunk can go up over there. The bunk that comes back here tomorrow can go up over there.
There's another thing that we'd like to talk about, if we can, briefly, and that is when you all come, we don't feel like we made the instructions clear to whoever we gave the instructions to about you all being able to combine your crafts during the daylight hours when many are out of craft task.
When you're low staff.
And your staff's slow. So we never want anyone to be over in Satellite 1 without at least one Satellite 3 person being there. And I think you all know the reason. Now, while I was sitting over in Satellite 1, I read some of the things that you all had written in your book. And one thing was that only a Satellite 3 person would answer the telephone and there would be no exceptions. That isn't entirely correct. We'd like for you to plan to have a Satellite 3 person answer the phone. But if by chance...
Or if by extenuating circumstances that because of Link's tasks that have been given, you find yourself without a Satellite 3 person there in spite of your efforts, then someone who is not a Satellite
was calling and you knew nothing about it, you would say, would you mind holding the phone a moment, please? And let me get you somebody who knows something about what you want to know.
Like say there's a Satellite 3 person over here.
Then you would get on the caller and say, could you come over and talk to this person on the phone? I know nothing about it.
Yes, they could scoot over there. But back to what T was saying in the beginning, on this low staff combining crafts, you want to be sure that the craft does not return to their, or the members do not return to number 1 without a Satellite 3 person being with them, so they have coverage of the telephone, etc.
Now today we got here about 4:30, and some of the individuals had gone over to Satellite 1, and there wasn't a Satellite 3 person there because the 2 Satellite 3 people had gone out to do a task, but they planned their strategy to be back before those individuals, or at least by the time it was due for those individuals to go over to Satellite 1 to start their experiment. But these individuals left before that time. So, you always get caught if you're doing something wrong, and we just happened to walk in right at the time you did something wrong, which is good because it made us aware that you did not know the procedure.
Wouldn't you want to get caught so it can be corrected?
So try to practice it in every way. We talked to them a while and told them and reminded them that we want them and we want all of you to make yourself follow procedure, not make yourself catch yourself, if that makes sense. Don't rely upon your teachers to catch you, because if we had not walked in, we know we didn't come down here just to get you all on that breakage. I hope not. But what you want to do is catch yourself, because if we had not brought it to your attention, you would not have known that you had done something wrong. So therefore, you want to always question your actions. Don't do something and assume that it's okay, because that's how humans are. They just go into their home and they do everything out of habit. But a member of the next level never does anything out of habit. He questions his actions continuously to see if what he's doing is according to procedure. And that way you can't go wrong. If you don't know what procedure is, then ask somebody. You have procedure to write a note to Satellite 3. I'm not sure, like they didn't know what the procedure was for combining the craft. So we said what you should have done was write a note asking Satellite 3 what is the procedure for combining the crafts. And then if they didn't know, whenever we called, they would ask us. If we didn't call, then they would send the notes to Links, and Links would answer it when we got it. So it's covered, but it isn't covered for you as an individual to ask the question. you have to do it yourself. You have to question whether or not what you are doing is absolutely correct. Let's use Songodi isn't here right now, but she'll listen to this tape. Let's use Songodi's task. For example, I just read the note about how she feels like she should work overtime, at least, if I understand it correctly, 8 hours. Maybe, working 6 days a week. Well, we've always said never take a position where you have to work overtime. It doesn't matter if you do it once in a while, but we don't want you to make a habit of it. 40 hours is all you need to spend at any out-of-craft task. That's the rule of the game. Rules of the game, right?
Sometimes we've okayed tasks that were maybe an hour or two, a little more, a little less.
Well, and like when some of you were working as a cook's task, you during the holidays you might have to work extra hours, but to work continuously every week that much, we don't want that much of your time directed in your out-of-craft task because it doesn't give you much time here to get the medicine that you need to get.
And your effort you get more interested in accomplishing what needs to be accomplished at your out-of-craft task than you do in what you want to accomplish in the craft. So,
first, when Songodi decided to change her job, she should have found out all of those things. And then, if she knew that she was going to have to work overtime, then she should have thought, well, I guess I better not take that task.
Would have been a reason not to switch jobs.
She should have stayed where she was. You see what we're saying? So this could apply to all of you now. Now she could say, well, what do I do now? Because I didn't find out about that. Should I look for another job, or should I? What should I do? Well, the best thing to do is to just make it clear. And I've worked in the hospital. This vehicle has worked in the hospitals many, many years, and I know that hospitals will take advantage of anybody who will work overtime.
Anybody who will let them.
And she's got to let them know that she has another life to live. Her life is not totally in that hospital. And that she doesn't mind working once in a while. But once in a while would be perfectly okay. But every week it is not okay.
Or more than not.
We don't really like it. But since she's in that position, well, then she ought to try to correct it. And it would not be, there's nothing wrong with that. Too many people, if they want her to work overtime like on Saturdays, then they should give her a day off during the week. And she could present that to them like, well, if it turns out that on the weekend I have all this stuff to do, I don't mind working weekends. Then could I take a day off during the week to cover for that weekend? But to go in and work 6 days a week, we don't want you all doing that 48 hours a week regularly. So maybe this can help her. Hey, Rhodey?
Well, it's because it just means you haven't zeroed in on why your feeler is awkward. If you would zero in on why your feeler is awkward, then your question would be appropriate. Because the moment I zero in on it, there's only one question to ask. Are you sure it's procedure for us to go over there without a satellite 3-person? Whoops! And then recognize, no, it isn't. So, and this is it's good that you brought that up. Because this is good. Anytime your feeler begins to feel like, this isn't quite right, then work as fast as you can to determine how you can get down to the direct, brief, one-sentence reason why it isn't right. so that your question will be appropriate. And then it will work. It's when you don't know why it isn't right and you start asking periphery questions that they seem to be awkward and out of place. Well, if you didn't know the procedure and you couldn't immediately recall it in your computer, then you shouldn't do it. If you can recall it in your computer and there's an instruction to cover it, and the instruction says it's okay to pick them up, then you do it. Otherwise, but you should exert the effort to try to examine as quickly as you can with whatever check partners are present. Is it instruction? Do we have an instruction to pick them up in a situation like this? Even if you have to drive around the block for a moment while you're trying to determine whether or not you have an instruction to do it.
Now, wait, I don't quite understand what you mean. Did dispatch know that you were going to pick them up?
No.
See, we have a procedure for that.
It wasn't part of the run, we passed them walking, they kind of said,
Oh, well, if they signaled to them and they were walking back, yes, it's perfectly okay to pick
Not
them
if we don't have procedure for it, right?
Well, if they motioned for the waved at them and you had space, but you wouldn't go and make a run.
But see, this is a good example that we need to make a procedure.
Okay, the reason for now, I can give you reason why
Okay.
they shouldn't do it under different circumstances. Simply because, let's say that you were picking up two individuals, and then you were going by where another two individuals would be getting off, and you knew that they would be getting off, and they were not walking. And you thought, well, since we're here, let's pick them up. Well, can you see the conflict there? Because another craft
You'd be
may be
interfering
coming
with dispatches
to pick
work.
them up, and then they would find that they were gone and wondered what happened to them. But if they're walking home and no craft is coming after them, and they motion for you to pick them up, there's nothing wrong with picking
Okay,
them
now
up.
this is a procedure that's being given right now.
You certainly wouldn't ignore them. It's just like when we used to say to you all, if you see us on the street, don't come up and don't recognize us, just keep right on walking. But if we were going there to meet with you and you turned around and pretended like we weren't there,
Which has happened.
you wouldn't do that. That's an extreme.
That was a misapplication of instruction.
It's just a little bit of using your noodle and trying to figure it out. This study?
Well, see, I don't understand a question like that because that's assuming that satellite 3 person is going to be so slow in getting a check partner that I would need to offer it. Huh? I know, but I'm still saying in order to have that question in my mind, I would have to assume that satellite 3 person is not going to be on the ball in getting a check partner on his own quickly. In other words, it's that satellite 3's person's job to get a check partner. It's not your job to offer to be a check partner. You see what I'm saying? And should you have to offer, it means that satellite 3 person isn't on the ball because he hasn't done his job of quickly getting a check partner of whoever is available handed to him, and that's his task. And you can't question it like who he chooses or why he would go 3 steps to get someone when I'm only 1 step away, because you may not know all the circumstances of the knowledge that the person that is getting his check partner might have in that circumstance. But you would be an interference to offer to be a check partner before being asked. Not always. It depends
If he's
upon
answering the phone.
Yes, if he's answering the phone, yes. He would normally have a check partner only if he was talking with Lynx and Lynx didn't want him to have a check partner.
And sometimes if he's answering the phone and nothing's happening, you know, like if it's not a dispatch thing or
The wrong number.
or wrong number or something, he doesn't need a check partner for that. I mean, he needs one if it's a dispatch thing, but if it's the wrong number
If it's something he has to perform, he needs a check partner.
Right.
But to say you've got the wrong number, he can do that without saying, well, I need a check partner so I can tell these folks that they've got the wrong number. That's an extreme.
Aren't that it?
Bring up, words. Phone rings and you go to answer it, and it's saying, well, someone will be off at 2 o'clock. And she's just checking in. And it's kind of like a dispatch thing. I don't know exactly clear on what I would need a check partner for, other than to say somebody else has to run the phone the same way as other way.
That's all you do.
That's all
You need to parrot what occurred that quickly, and then that as you parrot it, that your person becomes your check partner. But you don't have to say, now, wait a minute, Sam, don't say anything. I haven't got a check partner yet.
Nobody in the room, I get the message, and I hang up the phone, I say, this is your...
That's right. That's your check
No
partner.
thanks.
That's right.
I don't need to wait and say, hold on, Sam.
No.
I'll get a check.
That's correct.
Just like you did back at the retreat when you were telling the ones downstairs what to paint. Remember, we'll paint the doors and around the trimming and all that. Remember that? And you went and told everybody downstairs who was painting. Okay, now you followed through on what you were supposed to do. You made sure everybody knew what to paint, and because it had been given to you. Now,
To let everyone know.
right. Now, if Sam Lodi calls and says, I'm going to be off at 2 p.m., and that means that she's expecting somebody to pick her up, right? So if you dropped it right there,
Or if you took
she would never get home.
Or
She'd
if you
have to
took
walk.
care of it on your own and did it by yourself, that wouldn't be correct because you wouldn't have involved someone else. You're trusting your own memory, your own decision too much. That's the reason you do all those actions with a check partner.
Now, what you do when somebody calls like that, what do you do? Put it on the pilots list or what? Where do you do with that?
Just noted in the policy book, it's saying when it's about 2 o'clock, she's starting to walk home. So
Oh, she walks home?
she's not back
Okay.
20 after, and Sam owns
You have to check
Yeah,
on
that's
them.
right. That's right. But
Okay, but you should
someone,
tell somebody else.
yes, someone checks to see that you put down what she told you, and then they also are responsible. They're just as involved to see that she arrives when she's expected as you are.
Totally. Now wait, let me find out. What kind of other task would they be involved in? I'm sorry, vital signs do not have priority over
Unless it's a car that has broken down and
It's an
has an
emergency.
emergency need for attention. Otherwise, they cannot take off from the lab.
The only exception would be a Lynx task, and one that Lynx called and said to do it if you can't.
That's
get
top
away.
priority.
But you would not, your lab, you cannot pass up your lab duty. The only exception would be an emergency. Like if you're a vital signs person and somebody brought the car in and said the brakes are bad. And
It's got to go out on a run.
Got to go out on a run. Can you check it? I couldn't stop. Almost knocked the fence down or whatever it is, And
That would be reason to get a sub for the lab.
But other than that, you just can't go out and check vital signs or something like that when you're scheduled to go on lab duty.
Which means several considerations have to be made, because if that's occurring, then vital signs people have to examine whether or not their vital signs test can be done without interfering with the lab. If it cannot, then they have to report to Satellite 3 people so they can rearrange scheduling.
Right.
That's what it amounts to.
But what you want to do is try to plan your strategy so you can get all of those things in. Because
that's right. The more you can accomplish, the smoother tool you are.
That's the fun of being in. That's the only fun you have in a classroom, is trying to see how you can work in all those things that you have to do and get them all done and not lose out on anything. Remember that old MacDonald had a form? You don't drop anything. No oinks, no quacks, no moos or anything. Okay, go ahead, Tarlodi. Did that answer your question? This applies to everything, and if you look at it as fun, it makes this kind of classroom much easier and more pleasant for you. Nothing can become a drudgery if you look at it as though this is a game you're playing and you're trying to get everything done. We had so much fun, and I mean it. That's about the only fun we had, was watching the retreat get fixed up. And as one thing got started, we'd take the next step, and then the next step, and then everything was accomplished so quickly. And everybody worked so quickly and worked so well. And after you all left, we had
learned along the way too.
After you all left, we had about a foot of snow, maybe 2 feet of snow. Am I exaggerating?
No, that's right.
Boy, it was that high. No, more about like that. And we had to get out there and shovel that snow. Were you all there then? You were there?
No, who was the group before you?
Press Odie and Jim Odie.
No, she's talking about after they left, because you all were there during that.
But we got out there and shoveled that snow.
We applauded the plow when he got to the top of the hill.
And he plowed part of our road.
So he finished off our driveway.
Don't tell me that, Tarlodi. I hope you're wrong, because I went through this the last time we were here. No two individuals will be on an HP experiment.
Well, it's supposed to be scheduled. Scheduled 3 people on HP.
I didn't hear that.
No, I didn't either. What else?
Hope that'll be corrected soon. Pronto.
Ready?
Regarding wearing jumpsuits in the lab, we have an instruction in our book that says we're not wearing a jumpsuit anytime we're working in the lab. And I was wondering how this might apply.
What's that?
I mean, you would only wear street clothes.
You're doing well, Drew.
You're growing, Drew.
You would only wear your jumpsuit. And I was wondering how it might apply to late night people, because we were supposed to be on runs, and at the same time we try to do tools and help the Jews people or whatever.
I don't understand. What do you mean? Why are you on duty in the lab if you have runs?
Well, it's not actual duty, but we're supposed to clean up the tools and like ceremonies and retreats, and so everybody comes back at night and needs someone to help him make juice. And the way it reads now, we can't help him until we're all done with all our runs for the night.
Well, how close are your runs?
Well, they're unpredictable. It's supposed to be within 3 hours from like 10 o'clock till 12 o'clock or something, but
How many runs do you have?
Are
Are they an hour apart, 30 minutes apart, or what?
they're all well-known based.
So,
So it's unpredictable.
So
So
you
since
have to
they
be
are
ready, right?
unpredictable, you have to stay in strict toes?
Okay, well, see, all we need to do is know circumstances. Because when we were here in Amarillo the last time, every time we came over here, I think you and Alex Sodi were in street clothes working in the lab. And in a sense, this is why the instruction came down. If it doesn't work, where you can wear your jumpsuit always, and that there would be an exception, then all we need to know is what that exception
Now,
is.
the procedure would have been for us to get a note about this through Satellite 3 instead of at a meeting like this.
So now we can...
But since it did come up, we will make an exception in circumstances like this and say that you can assist in the lab when you're on call for runs late at night. But anytime that we also have a meeting like this, we're trying to give you lessons of things that have occurred, and we aren't shortcutting the procedure of how you handle your problems. Do you follow what we're saying?
So the exception is that is the only exception. Now the problem that's going to arise, you're going to make some more exceptions and think because we made an exception that this exception is acceptable.
They start expanding. The exceptions start expanding.
So this only applies to late at night.
That's right.
From 10 to 12 midnight.
While you're on call.
While you're on call. It doesn't apply any other time. Okay? Have we covered ourselves okay on that? Well, let's say late night.
Until it ends. Until it ends.
Okay? So you all put it in the book, if you will. Janoti, did you have...
If I understand right, you're saying that find some condition like the road here, that it gets late night, that's when I write it over.
If it isn't,
Problem with this situation
right,
where I'm on a certain type of run.
that you have to wear, you cannot wear your jumpsuit while on lab duty.
Or I can't abide by instructions because of so-and-so, what should I do? Or I can't find a way to. I haven't learned how to find a way, something like that. And then we look at it as a particular incident and try to solve it.
Okay?
Melody?
just pull the information out of us, Melody. That's what it does. The most important thing, like Melody was talking about, if you will realize that every time you try to follow a procedure, you are using your next level mind. Anytime you do something out of habit, without thinking, you are wasting your energy and accomplishing absolutely nothing.
And it's time taken up that will have to be learned at another time.
Only you can get us out of here. If it was left to us, we would have been out of here 4 years ago. 6 years ago. 6.5 years ago. And I'm serious because that's how much effort we have put into it. We know you have put in effort also. But we know that the effort that you need right now is more than you have ever exerted. Simply because you have to do it yourself. Can you understand that? While we're here, when, like today, we couldn't help but see what had happened in the crafts. So we brought it to your attention. But we want you to catch yourself. We want to walk in and say, we did the dumbest thing. And then we think, you did it. You're learning. You're catching yourself. And what you're doing is letting the procedures that we have tried to teach you become a part of your life. And if you do anything else, then it is so, it rings so loud that you know it.
Don't count on others to be the ones to catch you on procedures either. Be more responsible yourself for knowing what procedures are.
Okay. We'll talk to you
I think we
again.
better call it quits.
Okay, thank you.